Everyone, I'm back with the next video. The chapter is Breathing and Respiration, Class 11 NCERT, and the topic to be covered in this video is transport of gases, and we will be discussing about transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. So let's begin with the chapter. As I have as I always tell you that in CRT, I'll be reading out line by line and word to word of NCRT. So let's start with that. And transport of gases. Blood is the medium of transport for oxygen and carbon dioxide. About 97% of oxygen is transported by RBCs in the blood. That means red blood cells are responsible for maximum transportation of oxygen. Okay. Remaining 3%, because 97% is being done by RBCs. So remaining 3% of oxygen is carried in the dissolved state through the plasma. So two ways oxygen is being transported. It is transported in two ways. One is it gets transported, you see, it gets transported by RBCs, and 97% gets transported by red blood cells, and see the other 3% is being dissolved in the plasma. So this percentage may vary from book to book and from various person to person. In NCRT, they write 97% and 3%, but here they have mentioned 98 and 2%. So I would suggest that you go with NCERT datas. Okay. Then children, nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by RBCs, whereas 70% is carried out as bicarbonate. Okay, so out of 100% carbon dioxide, 20 to 25% is being transported by RBCs and 70% is being carried as bicarbonate, and 7% of CO2 is carried in a dissolved state through plasma. So these are the data they have given you. 100% oxygen, how will be the transportation of that 100% oxygen? 97% through RBCs, 3% through plasma. Same with carbon dioxide, 20 to 25% with RBCs, 70% in the form of bicarbonates, and only 7% is carried out in dissolved state in the plasma. So now we will first look at the transport of oxygen. Okay. Now, oxygen, you see, as here in NCRT, hemoglobin is red colored pigment containing iron containing pigment present in the RBCs. Children, this word hemoglobin, in this word, the first half of the letter, that means this heme. This heme means iron. Okay, and globing means binding. So iron, it's a compound, it's a pigment which contains iron, and oxygen can bind with hemoglobin in a reversible manner. Now what do you mean by reversible manner? That oxygen can bind with hemoglobin, and it can also separate, we can also separate these two products from each other. That means it is reversible. And after binding with a hemoglobin, a compound is formed which is called oxyhemoglobin. Okay, each hemoglobin molecule can carry a maximum of 4 molecules of oxygen. You see, even here the resting body requires 250 ml of oxygen per minute. If you are at a resting stage, you are sleeping or you're just relaxing, how much oxygen you need? 20 to 50 ml of oxygen per minute we require. And we have 4 to 6 billion hemoglobin containing RBCs. Okay, and hemoglobin allows nearly 70% of more oxygen than dissolved plasma, which we have already seen, because 97% is being carried out by RBCs and only 3% is carried out by plasma. So let's see here again in your book, Binding of oxygen with hemoglobin is primarily related to partial pressure of oxygen. Okay, so how much oxygen will bind with hemoglobin, that depends on the partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and hydrogen ion concentration and temperature are other factors which can interfere with this binding. You have to underline these lines, children. So, how much oxygen will bind? How much oxygen will bind with the hemoglobin? That depends on four factors. Just write down and underline these factors. You can number them. The first factor is partial pressure of oxygen here. Second factor is partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Third factor is hydrogen ion concentration. And the fourth factor is the temperature. So these four factors will decide how much oxygen will bind with the hemoglobin. Next, a sigmoid curve, you see, you can see the picture here. A sigmoid curve is obtained when percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against the PO2. Now this is a curve, this is a graph they have plotted. On x-axis they have taken partial pressure of oxygen, and on y-axis they have taken see, percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. That means how much hemoglobin has been saturated. When will you consider that hemoglobin is saturated? As I told you, children, that this is a hemoglobin molecule. See, this is the structure of a hemoglobin molecule, and each hemoglobin molecule, see, hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. So this is the saturation point of one hemoglobin. That means the hemoglobin is now satisfied. It will not take any more oxygen molecules. It is saturated. So when oxygen binds to hemoglobin, it will form oxyhemoglobin. Okay, understood? So this is a graph. Graph is being plotted where x-axis they write partial pressure of oxygen, and on y-axis what are they considering? What is the percentage of hemoglobin saturation with oxygen? Okay, so if the partial pressure of oxygen is 0, so percentage of saturation is also 0. Now as the partial pressure increases, the saturation level also increases. See, but at a certain point, now the partial pressure is increasing, it has become stable, so saturation is also getting stable. See, so it's a sigmoid curve. Okay, now this sigmoid curve, you see, a sigmoid curve is obtained when percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against the partial pressure of oxygen. This curve is called oxygen dissociation curve. What is this curve known as? Oxygen dissociation curve, and is highly useful in studying the effect of factors like partial pressure of carbon dioxide, hydrogen ion concentration, etc., on binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. So when any doctor wants to study that how much, what is the level of saturation of hemoglobin in a patient, he can go on to this curve and he will come to know that how the saturation level is being affected by these factors. Okay, now you have to be very clear here, children. Please pay attention that in alveoli, children, in alveoli where there is high PO2, alveoli is having high partial pressure of oxygen, low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, lesser amount of hydrogen ion concentration, and low temperature. So this is the condition in the alveoli. Please underline this. So in alveoli, what are the conditions? The conditions are high partial pressure of oxygen, low PCO2, less hydrogen ion concentration, and lower temperature. Now all these factors are favoring what? They are favorable to they are favorable towards the combination or binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin. So these factors are all favorable for the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Hence, maximum amount of oxygen will try to bind with the hemoglobin. Okay, this is the case in alveoli. Whereas in tissues, the conditions are just the opposite, where the partial pressure of oxygen is low, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is very high, hydrogen ion concentration is also very high, and temperature is also high. So all these conditions, they are not favoring binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin. So the conditions are favorable for what? Binding will not happen, then what will happen? Dissociation will happen. So dissociation of oxygen from the oxyhemoglobin. That means the oxygen which was binded with hemoglobin, they will split up and the oxygen will be set free and will be taken up by the tissues because they need oxygen for their work. This clearly indicates that oxygen gets bound to hemoglobin in the lung surface, in the alveoli, and gets dissociated at the tissues. Okay, every 100 ml of oxygen blood can deliver around 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues under normal physiological conditions. So I hope I am clear. Again, on the slides, I will like you to explain this once more, that each molecule of hemoglobin can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. When oxygen binds to hemoglobin, it forms oxyhemoglobin, and when hemoglobin that is not bound to oxygen is referred to as deoxyhemoglobin. Next, hemoglobin saturation. See, the binding of oxygen to hemoglobin depends on partial pressure of oxygen in the blood and bonding strength or affinity between hemoglobin and the oxygen. The graph on the following page shows an oxygen dissociation curve, which will reveal the amount of hemoglobin saturation at different PO2 values. See, oxygen dissociation curve reveals the amount of hemoglobin saturation at different partial pressure of oxygen values. See, you can see here, this is a sigmoid curve, okay, and you see they have written oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve is S-shaped, flat slope at high PO2, steep slope at low PO2. You understand slopes. This is a slope, okay? Okay, so this is an oxygen dissociation curve, and you see in tissues of other organs the typical PO2 is 40. Here hemoglobin has low affinity for oxygen and releases some but or not all of the oxygen to the tissues. When hemoglobin leaves the tissues, it is still 75% saturated. That means the hemoglobin which is giving the oxygen to the tissues, do not think that hemoglobin gets empty. That means all the oxygen has been given by the hemoglobin to the tissues. No. Still, after giving the oxygen to the tissues, still 75% of the oxygen is still left with the hemoglobin. Okay? So this you are not required in the NCERT portion. So this is what is regarding transport of oxygen in this video.